Did Brent Venables leave the door open for a little quarterback uncertainty for the Alamo Bowl? We'll talk about that on today's episode of Locked On Sooners.
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Sooner Nation? Welcome to Locked On Sooners, and thank you for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. We're free and available on all podcast platforms and on YouTube, so make us your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com/lockedoncollege and use code LOCKEDONCollege for a first deposit match up to $100. Daily fantasy sports made easy at prizepicks.com. My name is John Williams. You can follow me on Twitter at John9Williams. My buddy here is Josh Helmer. You can follow him on Twitter at JoshOnRef. You can also hear him Monday through Friday from 9 to noon on the KREF Sports app. And Josh, Brent Venables spoke to the media on Thursday in the Alamo Bowl presser, probably the first of what will be multiple media engagements for Venables and the Arizona coach contingent as well. But Venables had something interesting to say when asked about Dillon Gabriel, basically saying that no decision has been made yet on whether or not Gabriel will play in the Alamo Bowl. Now, this could just be Brent Venables not wanting to speak to Dillon Gabriel's decision, since there might still be some uncertainty as to where he's going to end up. I think the popular thought is that he's in the portal. He's got some interesting suitors in Oregon, reportedly Ohio State, or at least rumoredly Ohio State and USC. I mean, he's going to have some top-notch programs pursuing a quarterback who is 7th all-time in passing yards coming off of a career year. However, it is interesting that he left the door open a little bit for the idea that Gabriel could play in the Alamo Bowl. Now, again, I think most of us are assuming that it's going to be the Jackson Arnold show, but still, you know, your head coach hedging a little bit.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Really the entirety of the remarks from Brent Venables, which was basically along the lines of, don't get this confused that we were ushering Dillon Gabriel out. We weren't ushering Dillon Gabriel out. We would have loved to have Dillon Gabriel back for the 2024 season. Our understanding was that he thought he'd be playing professionally after this year, that he'd come back, have a great year, and then have a chance to move on to professional football. So I think that some of this maybe legitimately has come as a little bit of a surprise, maybe to Brent Venables and Oklahoma staff. Now, that's not to say I don't think that Brent Venables feels any kind of way about it. I'm sure he's positive and wishes Dillon Gabriel only the best. But I do think maybe on some level, yeah, he's a little bit surprised. So with all of that being said, I don't think Dillon Gabriel is playing in this bowl game. I think it will be, yes, the Jackson Arnold show. And I do think once you know, as much as you love Dillon Gabriel, you're always appreciative of the contributions of the past 2 seasons that he's brought to the table for you. Now you know, okay, he's not going pro, we don't think right now. He's exploring other options in college football. So he's not coming back to OU next season. We have one dress rehearsal here, one opportunity to get Jackson Arnold just that little bit more ready for next season. And I expect Brent Venables in Oklahoma to take it. And maybe, I don't know, that Venables could be talked into the idea a little bit that Gabriel wants to suit up one final time for OU and finish the job he started. I can understand or get the wheels turning in that line of thinking. I just think that Venables in Oklahoma are so forward driven, John, that given this opportunity, I don't think they're going to pass it up. And, Brent Venables probably doing the right thing here, which is I'm going to let Dillon Gabriel have his moment to explain all of this to you.
Yeah, and if Jeff Lebby were still around, I could see maybe a little bit greater possibility that Gabriel comes back for another year, because that's his dude. Like Lebby, Gabriel, they're pretty much tied together. Now, not so much tied that Gabriel's going to go to Mississippi State, but the relationship is so strong that if, as is kind of being rumored, that Dillon Gabriel got a undrafted free agent, grade from NFL insiders and scouts and things like that, then it could make sense to come back for one more year. At the same time, if an undrafted free agent grade is about where he lands, even after one more year in college, go make your money, man. Like, go get your opportunity, and I'm sure Oklahoma was providing good NIL opportunities for him, but like Oregon could, or Ohio State, I don't know if that's the case yet for Oklahoma's NIL programs just now. I mean, very few people are matching what Oregon can probably do with the Nike backing that they've got. So I don't blame him for taking this opportunity to go make a little bit of coin, and also just kind of allow for the changing of the guard, the new leadership. If Gabriel's gone and Drake Stoops is gone and Danny Stutzman is gone, there's a pretty big leadership vacuum that's being created. Well, what better opportunity for your next quarterback to kind of step into that next leadership role and really make this his team over the next 10 months as they get ready for the 2024 season. So, I mean, there's a lot of things at play here, for Gabriel, obviously coming back to Oklahoma. I think it was an option, but it seemed like in the summertime, it wasn't something they considered, because I think they considered that Gabriel would get a draftable grade, somewhere in the 5th to 7th round, that he'd be selected. There are some limitations to his game. He's a good quarterback, but is he somebody that NFL scouts are going to be like, slobbering all over to draft? No. I mean, he's got some things he's got to continue to prove and work on. Had a great year this year. If he can build on that with a strong year somewhere else, maybe that thrusts him into a draftable grade, and not just a 7th round pick grade, but now he's put 2 consecutive years of tape together that allows somebody to pick him in the 5th round or the 4th round, something like that. So it's interesting. And then I think the other aspect of that is just saying, hey, we would have welcomed him back. Like I think this is the part of Venables. It's like, he was part of the team. He's always welcome here. That's the loyalty that, yeah, even though, there might've been a succession plan in place and things didn't go according to plan for anybody, of course they would say, yeah, come on back and compete. Now, that word compete is interesting. You're going to let them have an open competition, or is it Dillon Gabriel's job? Now, I think later on he says, compete and be the quarterback at Oklahoma. So I think there's a respect there that if Gabriel wanted to come back, they'd certainly have an open door for him. But it seems like that ship has sailed, and it's time to move on, and that's not to say like Gabriel's not a good player and he hasn't, and we don't respect and appreciate what he put in at Oklahoma over the last couple of years. It's just time to turn the page, just like it's time to turn the page on the Big 12. Pretty much time to turn the page on the Lincoln Riley era, as most of those prospects and those recruits that were a part of the Lincoln Riley, Alex Grinch era are about gone. We talked about Danny Stutzman, like that was him, Billy Bowman, and maybe a couple others are like the key players from that era that are about out of here. And so now it's Brent Venables establishing his identity fully from top to bottom. And we got another player to talk about entering the transfer portal as a former top 100 prospect in the 2021 cycle that really just never panned out. We'll talk about him and some more portal and recruiting news after the break.
Today's episode brought to us by Prize Picks. Use our code LOCKEDONCollege for a first deposit match up to $100. That's prizepicks.com/LockedOnCollege, where you can, again, use our code LOCKEDONCollege for a first deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks is great. We sing the praises. We speak your name, Prize Picks. You can place your entry in 60 seconds or less. Really easy. Number of different players and statistical numbers that you can look at, and you just pick more than, less than. They've also got their specials league. It's really fun with basketball season here. It's a specials league that combines, for instance, LeBron James plus Travis Kelce at a 10.5 combo of 3-pointers made plus receptions. More than, less than, whichever side you like. Daily fantasy sports made easy again with Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnCollege. Use our code LockedOnCollege for that first deposit match up to $100. Again, daily fantasy sports made easy.
Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts on Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. Josh, the top 100 prospect that entered the portal, Kelvin Gilliam, a player that had a lot of promise, someone that everybody is really, really excited about out of the 2021 recruiting cycle. But like several players that, we've seen over the last few years, I'm thinking of a Bray Walker, really highly touted prospects. Nate Anderson's another one. Just never could really put it together for one reason or another. Now for Gilliam, injuries were kind of a key issue that kept him off the field, but when healthy, he had some moments, but ultimately just had a hard time breaking through consistently. So, it's another portal departure. I know a lot of people are panicking, at least outside of the Oklahoma sphere, about the 12 players, 13 players now that Oklahoma has lost to the portal. I mean, outside of a few, the guys that are gone haven't really been key contributors to this team. Now, you hate to see a guy that was so highly touted not really be able to put it together for the Sooners, but it's just kind of where we are at this point. And given the transfer portal and where we're at in college football, if there's an opportunity for him to go and have some success somewhere and fulfill his college football dreams, then more power to him.
It's the nature of existence in college football nowadays, and especially at a place like Oklahoma where you recruit a number of blue chip players, and John, they come in with the expectation that I'm going to have a chance to play straight away, or because I'm talented enough to do so. Not that you come to Oklahoma and they just say, hey, strap him up and get out there and you're starting, true freshman. But you come in with that type of expectation about yourself. And certainly by your second year on campus, you feel like, okay, I've got a great chance to go play. And when those things don't happen, because again, a little bit of that ego, probably you're not okay just sticking around waiting. And then you talk about the talent coming in behind you. Oklahoma's always adding talent. So I would imagine to some degree, if I'm Kelvin Gilliam, for instance, I might say to myself, is this going to actually happen for me at Oklahoma? Have I been passed up? Is there any getting back to the top of the depth chart? And is there a pathway forward to legitimate playing time? And probably the answer, obviously the answer he came up with for himself was no. No, there wasn't a pathway to playing time. And, the Savion Byrd one, that surprised me a little bit, John, but everybody else in the transfer portal, there's not another name for OU that I look at and say, oh, they were a guaranteed long-term big-time contributor, and guaranteed is probably a couple steps too far, but where you could see them being legitimate, easily see them being legitimate starting impact star level type players. Dalen Smothers, okay, maybe, right? Because you heard good things out of camp and again, talented running back coming in, but that's a position that it's tough to crack, that stable of running backs, and you're only adding to it. Key Lawrence, we saw play a lot of football, but I think the writing was on the wall that you wanted to go younger in the defensive backfield with some of that talent. And Jason Llewellyn, right? Injuries were an issue there for him. So I don't know. Gilliam would be, I guess, in that group with Byrd for me, and maybe Smothers, to where I said I wasn't convinced that they weren't going to wind up as stars at Oklahoma or significant contributors at Oklahoma. And yet, obviously, I think he felt differently.
Yeah, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head here with the guys coming in behind, just putting the pressure on everybody. There's been so much made about this defensive line recruiting class coming in 2024 that it's kind of put everybody on notice, whether you are feeling that pressure or not, you better get working. And you got to improve your game, because these guys are not coming to sit on the bench. I mean, they're not coming to bide their time either. They're going to try and push to get playing time, and Oklahoma may need them to be able to get playing time and earn playing time this next year. With Savion Byrd, I think you make a really good point that one was probably the most interesting. I won't say surprising necessarily, because of the way that he kind of fell out of favor after the injury, and after Caden Green took over at left guard, that maybe he just felt like he didn't get an opportunity to get back on the field. But there was going to be a really strong opportunity to get on the field this next year, because they do have questions at guard, in particular at right guard. Now, we don't know how the exit interviews went. He might have been told, listen, we think we have other options that we're going to try to explore at right guard. You can come in and compete, but nothing's going to be guaranteed. I don't know the conversations that happened, but I imagine it sounded a lot like the way most head coaches would talk, and it's come compete, come see if you can earn a starting job. Where, I mean, he might be able to go somewhere and start right away. It's, either at guard or at tackle. I think he could make a tackle of intrigue for somebody at some level, because he is an athletic player that plays a little bit of a mean streak, and he's got some experience now at the University of Oklahoma. So it's interesting. I think everybody else, I'm not too surprised by. Like Dillon Gabriel, obviously, I was surprised that he entered the portal, not surprised that he was leaving. Key Lawrence, like you said, the writing was on the wall. The dude only played, he didn't play more than 20 snaps in a game the last 4 games. And this is with Oklahoma still kind of dealing with some defensive back, inconsistencies and defensive back injuries a little bit. They liked Robert Spears Jennings, and they wanted to give him as much work as possible over those last 4 games. Obviously, the Peyton Bowen situation is like, everybody's pumped about that dude. Billy Bowman coming back. Maybe Billy Bowman is coming back, and that kind of pushes Key Lawrence's snap count way down. He's a depth option for the Sooners, where he could potentially probably be a starter for somebody in college football. So Tommy Walker might be another one, but after what happened during the season, where he was suspended for a game because of internal stuff, reportedly getting in a disagreement with DeMarco Murray, you can understand maybe why the departure takes place, but otherwise, I mean, you didn't really lose a whole lot of dudes of significance that you can't not easily replace, but that you don't have really, really good options for. You bring back your leading rusher, Gavin Sawchuk. You bring back a stable of dudes, Javonte Barnes and Caleb Hicks. And then you bring in a really nice running back class in 24 with Taylor Tatum and Xavier Robinson. So you're really in pretty good shape there. So I'm honestly surprised we haven't seen maybe some wide receiver transfers at this point, but it's still early in the portal season. We got a bowl game to play. There might still be some transfers that come out after the Alamo Bowl. I think that kind of might give us some indication as to really what this roster is going to look like in 2024. Some good news. The Cotton Bowl is forever. The Red River rivalry is not moving. We'll talk about that next here on Locked On Sooners, your team every day. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. The Cotton Bowl, the Red River rivalry, a tale as old as time, will continue in Dallas, Texas at the State Fair of Texas through the 2036 season. The Red River rivalry, Oklahoma and Texas, came to a contract extension agreement with the State Fair of Texas and the city of Dallas to keep the greatest rivalry in all of sports right where it's supposed to be, inside the Cotton Bowl. Beautiful. Absolutely love it. There have been people that have tried to clamor for home and home games, every year with the Red River rivalry, where each team hosts a game. And then there have been teams, people saying they should move to AT&T Stadium, aka Jerry World. Both terrible ideas. This is one that college football got right.
Love it. OU Texas is meant to be played at the Cotton Bowl. And meanwhile, the city of Dallas and those that wanted to keep this at the Cotton Bowl, they're investing millions of dollars. It's about to get the largest facelift that the Cotton Bowl's ever gotten. I'm looking at the renderings right now for the Cotton Bowl renovated, and it looks tremendous. It'll, from a fan amenity standpoint, be obviously a step through time into the present for OU and Texas at the Cotton Bowl. So the financial commitment, the ability to do what needed to be done to ensure that both parties felt good about it, both OU and Texas, because let's call it what it is. This game would be incredibly financially beneficial for the city of Norman, for the city of Austin. And you know what? Absolutely, Jerry's World would take it tomorrow if they could have it. So there's options on the table, not named the Cotton Bowl, but it's supposed to be split down the middle. It's supposed to be 50% crimson, 50% burnt orange, that disgusting color. And it's supposed to be played in October at the Cotton Bowl. So, I don't have any larger thoughts, I don't think, beyond that, other than this, to me, is the most special game in college football. I love this rivalry. To me, yeah, it's number one, but obviously Ohio State, Michigan, Auburn, Alabama, the Iron Bowl are great. This one's right there, and it's meant to be played here. So bravo, both sides. Nobody, as far as we know, right, there wasn't a slam things down on the table moment. They all agreed this is where the game needs to be.
Yeah, this is something that UT wants, that Oklahoma wants, the city of Dallas wants. And it makes it easy when everybody wants the same thing, because it's the thing that a vast majority of the fans want. The fans want to go down to the State Fair of Texas and be a part of the incredible scene that is the State Fair of Texas on OU Texas Day. They want to go down to Deep Ellum or Lower Greenville and be a part of all the festivities down there. They don't want the home and home. They don't want the Jerry World. I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan, and Jerry World is a terrible place for a football game. It is just not college football friendly. It's not NFL football friendly. Cowboys fans don't like Jerry World. They want to go back to Texas Stadium. It's cool. It's got a lot of amenities. It's got a lot of beautiful art that they always want to remind us about. Great job, Gene Jones. But college football is meant to be played in the Cotton Bowl every single year at that time in October. Love it. When all of the tradition and things seem to be going by the wayside year after year after year, you love to see the powers that be do the thing that isn't necessarily the most financially sound, but it is the thing that is going to make the game what the game is. You could make a lot more money potentially playing at AT&T Stadium. There's a lot more seats. It's a bigger venue that can charge a lot more money, but it would not have the pageantry, and it would not have the same feel and environment and excitement and energy that it has because of the Cotton Bowl at the State Fair of Texas every year in Dallas. And that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Sooners. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the show. Subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're free and available on every podcast platform and on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button and that notification bell to let you know when new episodes drop. Follow Josh on Twitter at JoshOnRef, myself at John9Williams. The show is at Locked On Sooners on Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, whatever you want it to be on, it's on there. But until next time, where I'm sure we'll have more portal stuff to discuss, and we might have some more commitment stuff to discuss. We didn't even get into the Dominic McKinley push that is happening by the Sooners now late in the recruiting cycle. But keep an eye on that one. If something breaks on that, we'll definitely be here to talk with you about it on Locked On Sooners. But until next time, he's Josh Helmer. I'm John Williams. Boomer Sooner.